Why would a girl with nothing be traded for everything? This is Thalia's story. A poor, blind orphan sold to a ruthless billionaire as his wife. But what happens next will leave you breathless. Before we begin, please let us know which city you're watching from by leaving a comment below. If you enjoy our content, kindly like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support means the world to us. Now, sit back and enjoy the story. Who is worth a life they've never known? Thalia's world was darkness. She had never seen the sky or the trees outside the orphanage walls. She heard them, the wind playing through leaves, the distant laughter of children running barefoot across fields she could only imagine. But what really filled her mind at night was loneliness. That all changed the night they brought her to the auction house. The elderly matron, Madame Renfield, called Thalia her most valuable possession. Her words were hollow. Thalia's silver hair and coal-black lashes gave her an odd beauty, but she was blind, poor, and alone. Thalia's heart pounded as she was led onto the red velvet stage. Dozens of gloved hands waved numbered paddles in the smoky light. She smelled expensive perfumes and heard soft murmurs. A bargain. What will become of her? She dared not whisper a prayer. The law said this sale was legal, though her soul screamed it was not just. Sold to the highest bidder, crooned the auctioneer, and a hush fell. Thalia felt a strange warmth before she heard it, a single paddle rising. A voice, deep and smooth, spoke two words that froze her blood. I bid. No one dared challenge him. His wealth, rumored to be in the billions, hung like a halo around his name, Asher Locke. He wore a tailored suit, quiet confidence, and an odd gentleness in his tone. 1 million. Sold. Madame Renfield wrapped Thalia's thin wrists in silk ribbons and presented her to him like a priceless artifact. Thalia trembled. He placed a gloved hand at the small of her back and led her off stage. The last thing she heard was the hush of awed spectators and the whisper, the billionaire's new bride. Thalia's first breath inside Asher's mansion tasted of cool marble and foreign flowers. Her guide, silent, imposing, led her through corridors so wide they echoed each footstep. The walls whispered luxury, silk tapestries, polished floors, and lamps that glowed like captured fireflies. He spoke only once, his voice low enough to stir curiosity. This is your home now. Home. The word felt as cold as the marble beneath her fingertips. She was given a soft robe, white silk that caressed her skin, and shown to a room so vast she felt lost. A grand bed sat beneath a chandelier. Windows framed with heavy curtains blocked all hint of sky. She pressed her hand against the curtains, but they were too thick. No wind, no birdsong reached inside. The silence pressed against her like a weight. For someone blind, sound was everything. And here, everything was too quiet. Her maid, Lena, finally spoke. Mistress Thalia, may I bring supper? Thalia nodded, and soon the scent of roasted fruits and warm bread filled the air. Lena's gentle hum reassured her. Not everyone here was cold. That night, Thalia lay awake on luxurious sheets. She detected footsteps on the other side of the wall, Asher's study perhaps. She wondered what he thought of her. Did he pity her? Own her? Fear her? At dawn, sunlight slipped through the tiniest crack in the curtains. It warmed her face like a distant promise. She could almost see it. Almost. But the mansion stayed silent. No birdsong, no rustling leaves. Only the distant hum of servants beginning their day. She resolved to explore. Each morning, she walked the corridors, trailing her fingers along carved banisters, listening for stories hidden in the walls. Once, she found a balcony door. The latch resisted, but she willed it open. A breeze swept in soft, alive. She breathed deeply, tasting freedom for the first time in days. But freedom felt dangerous. She heard a sharp intake of breath behind her. Asher's hand closed around her elbow, firm, controlling. Don't go out there alone. She stumbled but steadied. I needed to feel the air. He hesitated, then lowered his voice. Danger lurks everywhere outside these walls. Fear colored his tone, fear she couldn't place. Thalia realized her story was just beginning. She had been sold like a slave, yet already she sensed this billionaire was as much a prisoner of his own darkness as she was of her blindness. Questions swirled. Why had he bought her? What secrets did he hide in this cold palace? And most importantly, could she ever find a way to see, not with eyes, but with the truth she carried in her heart? Thalia's days in the mansion passed in silence and routine. She learned the sound of every footstep on the marble floors and the soft click of each door latch. Yet in all that stillness, one sound stood apart. A gentle humming, faint and steady, that brushed against her heart like a warm breeze. It began one late afternoon when Thalia sat by her window, wishing she could see the changing colors of the sky. Though she was blind, she wanted to feel the world's beauty all around her. Beyond the thick curtains, the breeze carried the scent of blooming jasmine. She reached her hand out, as if she might touch the flowers themselves. Then she heard it, the humming. A quiet melody, half song, half prayer. It drifted through the corridor beyond her room, soft and kind. Thalia held her breath, listening. The tune rose and fell in gentle waves, and for a moment, she forgot her loneliness. "Who is there?" she asked, her voice trembling like a leaf in wind. The humming stopped. After a pause, a calm voice answered, "Just someone who cares." Thalia's heart skipped. No one ever spoke to her like that. "Who are you?" There was the sound of careful footsteps approaching. "I am called Elias," the voice said. "I work here. I thought you might like a song." Thalia's fingers trembled as she clutched her robe. "Why would you sing to me?" "Because you are alone," Elias replied gently. "And because music deserves to be heard." The door eased open, and Thalia felt the warmth of a slender hand guiding hers to the doorframe. "May I come in?" She nodded, her heart pounding. The door creaked and a young man stepped in. He seemed tall, with steady breathing and a calm presence. His clothes bore the simple badge of the household staff. Thalia could smell fresh earth and grass on him. He must be the gardener. Elias paused a little away from her, respectful of her space. "You're new here," he said. "Yes," Thalia whispered. "It feels like a golden prison." He bent his head, apologizing in silence for her words. Then he said, "If you need a friend, you can find me by the fountain in the garden. I sing there for the flowers." "How do you know my name?" she asked, surprised. "Lena told me," he said softly. "She said you might be frightened and lonely." Lena, her maid, had already spoken kindly to her, but this was different. A stranger caring enough to learn her name. Thalia felt a tiny spark of hope. "Thank you, Elias," she said, her voice small. He smiled, though she could not see it. "Tomorrow, then. When the sun is highest, I will be there. And I will sing again just for you." He turned and left, leaving Thalia alone with her racing thoughts. She pressed her palms to her face and let the tears she had held back fall freely. For the first time since the auction, she felt something like comfort. The next morning, Thalia awoke to bright sunlight warming her cheeks. She dressed in her simple cotton dress and went down the wide corridor toward the garden. She listened for a fountain's gentle roar against the silence of the mansion. Outside, the air was alive with birdsong and the hum of bees in flowers she could not see. She followed the sound of water until she found a low, curved bench beside a marble fountain. She sat and listened. The spray of water cooled her skin like mist. A soft humming rose behind her. Thalia turned her head, heart fluttering, though she could not see. "Elias?" "Yes," came the gentle reply. He stood a few steps away, under a blossoming jasmine arbor. She could smell the heady flower scent all around him. He cleared his throat and began to hum again, a different song this time, slow and sweet. Thalia closed her eyes and let the melody wash over her. Each note felt like a warm hand brushing her cheek, each pause like a comforting breath. She felt tears well up again, not of sadness this time, but of wonder and gratitude. When the song ended, Elias spoke softly. "You have a lovely voice when you breathe." Thalia opened her eyes wide in surprise. "My voice?" "Yes," he said. "Your breath carries kindness. I hear it every morning." She laughed, a happy, surprised sound. "I've never had anyone speak so kindly to me." Elias stepped closer, offering his arm. Thalia hesitated, then placed her hand on his forearm. Together they traced the edge of the fountain. "Why do you help me?" she asked. He paused at a rose bush, its petals soft under her fingertips. "Because no one deserves to be treated like an auctioned object. I believe you deserve kindness, not chains." His words settled in her heart like sunlight. She leaned on him as they walked slowly back toward the mansion. Though the walls of her new home were still tall and cold, the world outside was warm and alive. And she had found someone who saw her not as property, but as a person. As she climbed the steps back inside, Elias whispered, "Tomorrow, I will show you the roses. You will feel their petals and smell their colors." Thalia smiled. "I would like that very much." And in that moment, a small seed of hope took root in her heart. She knew her journey was still dangerous and uncertain, but she also knew she was no longer alone. In the echo of that kind voice, she found a promise that even in the darkest places, a small light could grow. Thalia woke before dawn, the memory of Elias's gentle humming still echoing in her mind. Today, she felt braver than ever. She had always relied on her other senses, her keen ears, her delicate fingertips, her sharp mind. But living in the mansion had taught her just how many mysteries lay hidden behind locked doors and silent corridors. Today, she would seek answers. She slipped from her silken bed and tiptoed across the cold marble floor, careful not to wake Lena. In the hallway, she paused to listen. No servants passed by. No distant footsteps betrayed another presence. The perfect moment. She ran her fingertips along the walls, seeking the familiar grooves and textures of each doorframe. One door, in particular, caught her attention. Heavy oak, smoother than the others, with no handle. Only a small keyhole set just above her waist. This must be Asher's private study, she realized. If she could enter, perhaps she could learn why he had bought her, and what secrets lay buried in this silent house. She recalled the ornate key she had glimpsed dangling from Asher's vest the night of the auction. He wore it like a talisman, always close at hand. She had tried to ask Lena about it, but the maid shook her head and changed the subject. Thalia understood then. This key protected something important. Now, she pressed her ear to the keyhole and heard low murmurs from within. Curious, she circled the door and discovered its hidden hinges on the far side. She tested the keyhole with a slender hairpin pulled from her cloak, but it refused to turn. She sighed and moved on, determined to find another way in. Thalia explored the corridor further and found a narrow staircase winding down. No servant ever spoke of it, so she guessed it led to Asher's private wing. She descended carefully, her hand gliding along the carved banister. Each step brought a new hush, as though the house itself held its breath. At the bottom, she found a small service door. It was unlocked. Thalia opened it and slipped into a dimly lit hallway lined with portraits she could not see but heard the cool edges of their frames. She touched the nearest painting's gilt frame. It was solid and smooth, but when she pressed, she felt a hollow space behind it. Her heart raced. She pressed her ear to the frame and heard muffled voices. Two men were speaking in low tones. Thalia strained to catch the words. "Not safe," one voice whispered. "She's becoming too curious." "The blindness," the other replied. "Use it. Keep her in the dark." Thalia's breath caught. Did they mean her? She felt a surge of fear and anger. These walls were whispering betrayals against her. She pressed her hand against the frame, steadying herself. Suddenly, the frame shifted. A hidden panel swung open, revealing a narrow alcove. Beneath a velvet cloth lay a small bronze key, thin, old, and warm as if someone had held it recently. Thalia's fingers trembled as she lifted it and tucked it into the pocket of her robe. She felt victorious but uneasy. What would she find behind Asher's locked door? She retraced her steps and ascended the staircase, avoiding the grand corridors where servants might appear. Back at the oak door, she pressed the bronze key into the keyhole. It turned with a soft click that echoed like thunder in her chest. The door swung open to reveal a study bathed in soft morning light. A soft click behind her made her freeze. She reached for the door handle, but Asher's voice stopped her. "Thalia." She trembled but did not turn. I was curious. You should not be here." His tone was quiet but firm. She felt his presence before she felt the warmth of his body. "These secrets are not for you." She swallowed hard. "But why was I sold to you? What am I to you?" There was a long silence. She felt his breath, a hesitant exhale. Then he spoke, his voice softer. "You are not what I expected." Thalia summoned courage. "Then what?" A sigh. "Come back when the sun sets." "I will explain." The door clicked shut, and Thalia was alone again. She pressed her palm against the cool wood, lingering on his promise. Questions swirled. What secret tied her fate to his? Why did he hide his past? The bronze key burned in her pocket, a reminder that she now held the power to uncover truths he wished to conceal. As she stepped back into the corridor, the voices of the house seemed louder, as though celebrating her small triumph. Yet Thalia knew that the greatest revelations lay still ahead, and that each answer would demand a price she could scarcely imagine. That evening, as the sun dipped low and shadows grew long, Thalia returned to the study. She was ready to face Asher and the secrets behind those closed doors. The hush of the mansion seemed to watch her approach, and somewhere deep within its walls, another voice waited, one that would change her life forever. Thalia waited outside the study until the colossal mansion fell silent. The servants had dined and retreated to their quarters. The echo of footsteps faded into the hush of night. The world beyond the windows lay cloaked in shadow, broken only by the soft glow of lanterns set at regular intervals along the gardens. In that dim light, the manor felt more like a labyrinth of secrets than a home. Her heart pounded as she stepped up to the heavy oak door. The bronze key felt warm in her palm. She paused, reminding herself of the promise he made. "I will explain." Taking a steady breath, she unlocked the door and slipped inside. Asher stood by the desk, its polished surface gleaming with reflected lamplight. He faced the window, his silhouette tall and still, like a statue carved from night. Thalia's fingertips brushed the edge of the desk for courage. "You came." His voice was low, but not unkind. "I did," she said, her voice betraying a tremor. "You promised to tell me why you bought me." Asher nodded once and turned to face her. In the lamplight, the sharp lines of his face were softened. His dark eyes held an emotion she had not seen before, something like regret. He wore a simple black suit tonight, the only sign of his wealth the faint scent of costly cologne that drifted like a ghost around him. "There are masks," he began, stepping toward a leather-bound book on a nearby shelf. "Some we choose, and some are chosen for us." He laid a hand on the spine of the book, but did not open it. "I have worn one for years." Thalia's heart fluttered. "What mask?" He hesitated, then exhaled slowly. "The mask of control." He crossed to the desk, clearing his throat. "When I was a child, my family lost everything in a single night. A fire destroyed our home, and in the chaos, my parents, they vanished." He paused, his jaw tightening. "I inherited a fortune I never wanted." Thalia's fingers itched to ask more, but she stayed silent, letting him continue. "I built this empire to protect myself," he said, gesturing around the study. "Money can buy power. Power can buy safety. I thought if I controlled every detail, every deal, every person around me, I would never feel helpless again." Thalia thought of the silk ribbons on her wrists when she was presented at the auction. "But control can feel like chains," she whispered. Asher's eyes flickered with surprise, and something like relief. "Yes," he admitted. "Chains. That's exactly what it feels like." He glanced at the window, where the moon spilled silver onto the wooden floor. "When I bid for you that night, I believed I was rescuing someone who needed saving. I thought I could protect you." Thalia's fingers tightened into a fist at her side. "Did you rescue me?" Asher's gaze met hers, raw and unguarded. "I don't know." He ran a hand through his dark hair, leaving it mussed. "I was lonely. Everything I owned seemed empty, without meaning. And then I saw you. Your hair like spun silver, your delicate hands. Yet you walked forward with no fear. You were the only person I'd ever seen who faced darkness without blinking." Thalia's breath caught. She remembered the night of the auction, the hush that fell when he spoke her name. But she blinked back tears of anger and said firmly, "I didn't come to you for protection." Her voice grew stronger. "I came here because I had nowhere else to go." He nodded slowly. "I know." He turned away, resting his hands on the desk. "I treat people like chess pieces, Thalia. Always thinking 5 moves ahead. Always expecting them to stay where I placed them." He closed his eyes for a moment. "But you don't move like a piece. You move like a free spirit. You laugh when you find kindness in a stranger. You cry at a song you hear for the first time. You truly feel. You see with your heart where I could not." Thalia felt her chest tighten with both anger and compassion. "I am not a prize you can admire from afar," she said softly. "I am a person with hopes and dreams." He turned back to her, his shoulders slumping as though a great weight had finally been released. "I know, and I'm sorry I treated you like a prize." He stepped closer, and Thalia could hear the soft click of his shoes against the wooden floor. "I want to know what your dreams are." Thalia swallowed. She felt the rough grain of the desk beneath her fingertips, her mind searching for the right words. "I dream of seeing roses," she said at last. "I dream of reading a book on my own, tracing each letter with my fingers. I dream of being loved for who I am." Asher's breath hitched. He reached out, hesitating for a moment, then gently took her hand. "Then I will show you the world, Thalia. Not as a captive, but as my equal." His voice was steady, but Thalia heard the tremor underneath. Fear, hope, and something like love. She realized in that moment that the mask he wore, the mask of control, had finally cracked. Behind it was a man fragile and bruised, desperately seeking purpose and connection. And she, a poor blind girl, had been the key to unlocking his heart. The study's walls felt less cold now. The books seemed less like silent sentinels and more like friends waiting to be opened. Thalia squeezed Asher's hand, and for the first time since the auction, she felt seen. Not as an object, but as a person with a story yet to be told. Outside, the moon continued its silent vigil, bathing the world in soft light. Inside the mansion, two souls stood together, no longer prisoner and captor, but two beings ready to walk forward. Into love, into freedom, and into the unknown paths that lay ahead. Thalia could still feel the warmth of Asher's hand in hers when she awoke. For the first time since the auction night, she slept whole and dreamed of sunlight on her face. But morning brought more than birdsong and jasmine. It brought questions that would not stay buried. She lay in bed, listening to the mansion settle. Distant footsteps, the soft clink of china in the kitchen, the muted call of a servant. Beyond the window, the sky brightened. Today, she decided, she would discover why Asher truly bought her. After breakfast, Thalia wandered toward the library wing. Asher had shown her only one shelf of books. Poetry, stories of travel, simple novels that she could trace with her fingertips. But beyond that, she sensed a heavier world of locked drawers and unanswered questions. Her fingers trailed over each row of polished spines until they found one set apart. Law tomes, corporate folders bound in thick leather. The titles read in raised gold letters: Locke Industries, annual reports, safety audits, estate litigation files. Her heart raced. She selected the first volume, slid it from the shelf, and let its weight rest in her lap. The cover's metal clasps resisted her touch, but one latch clicked open when she pressed lightly. Inside, sheets of paper lay flat against each other, edges crisp. She flipped through pages, fingertips searching for anything that would explain her presence here. Most documents were written in formal business language: profits, losses, investments. Then she came to a file marked Factory Fire, 2008. Her blood chilled. She remembered 2008, the year she lost her parents. She had been a little girl in the crowd outside her father's factory when the blaze broke out. The orphanage matron said the factory owner had paid a sum to hush the lawsuits. She'd always wondered who he was. Now, Thalia traced the report's headings: casualties, 23. Injuries, 15. Blindness cases, 1. Her heart pounded. She flipped faster until her fingertips paused at a line. One claimant, Thalia Rose, permanent vision loss awarded settlement of $50,000. She closed the book, the edge cutting across her palm. She felt dizzy. The world spun. Asher's mansion, the auction block, the ribbons, they all swirled in a cruel dance. He had bought her as a trophy. But more than that, he had bought the one soul he had ruined. Her mind raced back to their conversation in the study. He'd spoken of regret, of losing everything in a single night. He hadn't said whose life was lost. He thought his parents, but in reality, his factory had stolen her childhood. Thalia slid the book back onto the shelf and let out a breath she didn't know she was holding. She felt tears on her cheeks, but they tasted like anger and sorrow, not fear. He had never told her. Why? Did he not know? Or did he hide it because he wanted to atone in his own way? She turned to leave but bumped into a narrow desk hidden between two tall bookcases. A small drawer sat partly open. Emboldened by her discovery, she reached inside and felt a stack of photographs tied with a ribbon. She untied them and lifted the first image to her face. The glossy image portrayed Asher in his youth, standing before a burning building, face etched with horror. On the back, in neat script, was written, "Philip Locke, my brother." Her fingers trembled as she flipped to the next photo. It was the same factory, but now she saw a young woman, her own mother perhaps, collapsed near the flames, and beside her, a boy clutching a little girl. Her, she realized, arms wrapped around her father's neck. The image blurred as tears welled up again. A voice in the corridor made her stiffen. Without thinking, Thalia tucked the photographs inside her dress and slid from the library. She crept down the hall toward the servants' staircase, but the drawing room door caught her fingertips on the catch and swung open softly. There, beside a roaring hearth, stood Asher. He'd changed into a dark coat and trousers, looking every inch the aloof billionaire. His eyes widened as he saw her clutching the volume of reports. "Thalia," he breathed. She steadied herself. "You knew," she whispered, voice thick. "You knew this all along." He closed the distance between them in 2 long strides. "I thought I could fix it," he said, voice tight. "I thought if I kept you close, I could somehow make it right." Thalia's tears spilled. "You bought me. You bought the child you blinded." Asher pressed a hand to his chest, as if the words were arrows. "You don't understand. I never meant." "Then what did you mean?" she interrupted. "To buy back my sight? To pay for my life?" Her voice cracked. Do you think money can mend my scars? Asher bowed his head. I was afraid, he admitted. Afraid of my guilt. Afraid that if I faced you, I would see the pain I caused. So I treated you like a possession instead of a person. Thalia felt her anger soften, replaced by something more complex. Pity, sorrow, and a longing for truth. You could have asked me to forgive you, she said quietly. You could have been honest. He looked up, eyes shimmering. I'm sorry, he said simply. I'm sorry for every day you suffered because of me. I don't expect your forgiveness, only that you know the truth. She closed her eyes, feeling the weight of his confession. The fire's warmth from the hearth mingled with the ache in her heart. Outside, the world went on ignorant of their tragedy. Inside, two lives intertwined by fate and regret trembled on the brink of forgiveness. Thalia drew a shaky breath. I need time, she said. Time to heal, time to forgive. But I will not live in your shadow of guilt forever. Asher bowed his head once more. I understand. He reached out, hesitated, then gently brushed a tear from her cheek with his thumb. His touch was tender, heartbreaking in its regret. In that moment, Thalia realized that their bond was deeper than riches or ruin. It was forged in fire and blood, held together by the fragile threads of truth. And though their future remained uncertain, it would be built on the open wounds they dared to reveal. Outside, the mansion settled into silence again. Within its grand walls, two souls stood facing the shadows of the past, shadows that, once embraced, might finally lead them both to the light. Thalia awoke to the soft whisper of wind through the jasmine vines. The memory of last night's confession lingered in her mind like a fragile melody. She sat up, listening to the mansion come alive around her. Distant water from the fountain, the low murmur of servants stirring in the kitchens, and beyond all, the steady beating of her own heart. Today, she decided, she would offer Asher a gift more precious than any apology: her trust. After a simple breakfast of warm bread and honeyed fruit, Thalia made her way down the grand staircase. Asher was waiting at the foot of the stairs, dressed in a pale gray morning suit that softened his sharp features. He looked at her with an expression Thalia had never seen before, raw hope mixed with childish nervousness. Good morning, he said quietly, offering his arm. She took it, surprised at how natural it felt to rely on him. Good morning, she replied, her voice steady. They stepped into the garden together. The sky was clear, and the air smelled of fresh grass and blooming roses. Thalia paused by a rose bush, letting her fingertips dance across the velvety petals. Asher watched her, silent and respectful. I promised to show you the roses, he said softly. But today I want to learn from you. Tell me how you see the world. Thalia closed her eyes and inhaled deeply. I see warmth, she began. I see contrast. The cold marble feels different from the soft petals. The wind tastes different from the scent of jasmine. I see not with my eyes, but with all the other senses. She opened her hand and let the wind play over her palm. When I listen to the fountain, I see dancing water. When I hear the birds, I see colors in my mind, bright yellows, passionate reds, gentle blues. Asher smiled, his shoulders relaxing. Teach me, he said. Let me feel the colors with you. They sat on a stone bench by the fountain. Thalia placed his hand in hers and guided his fingers to the rippling water. Close your eyes, she instructed. Focus only on what you hear. Asher obeyed. The water's gentle patter filled his ears. After a moment, Thalia asked, What do you feel? He hesitated, then answered, A soft tapestry, like tiny bells ringing in the distance. Good, she said, her voice warm. Now imagine those bells painted in silver and green. Asher nodded and smiled. I can see it. They spent the morning exploring like this, Thalia guiding his hands to different textures. The rough bark of an orange tree, the soft moss on the fountain's edge, the cool stone path beneath their feet. With each lesson, Asher's world grew richer, and his usual tension melted away. By midday, they found themselves in a secluded grove shaded by old oaks. Asher removed a small wooden box from his pocket and handed it to Thalia. I want you to have this, he said. Inside lay a simple locket on a fine gold chain. Thalia ran her fingers over its smooth surface, feeling a tiny hinge. She opened it to reveal two small portraits carved in ivory, one of a young Asher and one of a small girl, Thalia as a child with her parents. Tears filled Thalia's eyes. It's beautiful, she whispered. It belonged to my mother, Asher said. I kept it safe all these years, but today it's yours. You brought light into my world. Thalia closed the locket and pressed it to her heart. Thank you, she said, her voice choked with emotion. "I will treasure it always." Asher took her hand and guided her back toward the house. "There is something I'd like to show you inside," he said. Back in the study, Asher uncapped a bottle of ink and opened a journal. He placed a blank sheet in front of Thalia and handed her a pen. "Write down how you feel," he said. "Describe a rose in your own words." Thalia hesitated, then let her fingers grasp the pen. She felt its cool metal and pressed it to the page. Carefully, she traced each letter, feeling the way the journal's paper gave slight resistance beneath the pen's point. When she finished, Asher gently pulled the page toward him and read aloud. "A rose is a whisper of sunlight carried on a breeze. It holds the warmth of morning and the secret of beauty spoken without words. Its petals are soft as a mother's lullaby, and its thorns protect the heart that loves it." Asher's voice trembled with wonder. "That is perfect," he said. "You see the world in poetry." Thalia smiled shyly. "I only hope to share what I feel." Their shared moments of learning and teaching deepened their bond in ways neither expected. As the sun dipped low, painting the sky in soft amber, Asher escorted Thalia to the pavilion at the edge of the garden. There, a simple dinner was prepared: roasted vegetables, fresh bread, and sweet honey wine. They dined by lantern light, laughter spilling between them like a shared secret. As the meal ended, Thalia leaned back and welcomed the cool evening air. Asher watched her, his expression serious. "Thalia, you have given me more than I ever imagined," he said. "You have taught me to see with my heart." She reached out and touched his cheek. "And you have taught me that forgiveness can heal the deepest wounds." Under the canopy of stars, they sat in silence, two people from different worlds bound by understanding and compassion. Thalia realized that the chains of their past, her blindness, his guilt, had begun to fall away. In their place grew something fragile and precious: trust. As she closed her eyes, she heard Asher's soft breath beside her. She felt his hand in hers and knew, without seeing, that their bond was stronger than any barrier. Together, they would face whatever darkness lay ahead, guided by the light they had found in each other. Thalia awoke before dawn to the soft sigh of wind through her window. For a moment, she closed her eyes and let herself imagine that she was still in the garden with Asher, safe beneath the oaks, the scent of roses around her. But when she opened her eyes, the cold marble walls reminded her that the peace they had built was fragile. Too fragile, it seemed, to last. As she dressed, she thought of the night before. How Asher's laughter had sounded like music, how their shared dinner beneath the lanterns had felt like a miracle. She had almost forgotten the pain of her past, and his guilt, until a sudden knock on her door jarred her back to reality. "Madam Thalia," called Lena, her voice tight. "There are visitors below who insist on speaking with you." Thalia frowned. "Visitors? At this hour?" Lena bowed her head. "They refuse to say their names. They say it is urgent." A cold knot formed in Thalia's stomach. Only one person might dare barge into the mansion at dawn to demand to see her. The auction matron who had sold her. She swallowed and followed Lena down the hall, her fingers brushing the walls for support. Her heart thundered as they reached the grand foyer, where two strangers waited: a tall woman wrapped in black silk and a heavy-set man with a cruel twist to his mouth. "Madam Renfield," Thalia whispered. The woman in black lifted her chin. "That is no longer my title," she said, her voice as sharp as glass. "You belong to me once more." Thalia's blood ran cold. The scarlet ribbons that had bound her wrists at the auction howled in her memory. "You have no claim on me," she said firmly, though her voice trembled. "I am the wife of Asher Locke." At the mention of his name, Renfield's cruel smile faltered for the first time. She glanced at her companion, then fixed her gaze on Thalia again. "We have a contract," she said. "Under the law, your purchase remains binding until all stipulations are met." The buyer, Mr. Locke, was given 30 days to secure full title. He failed. "So you revert to my ownership?" Lena gasped. Thalia's heart raced. "That can't be true," she said. "Asher paid in full that very night." The man with Renfield snorted. "Paid? With gilded paper? Barely enough to cover a fraction of our costs." He spat on the marble floor. "If your billionaire husband doesn't cough up another million by sunset, you come with us." Thalia felt the world tilt. "You're blackmailing him," she breathed. "He will pay you." Renfield's eyes glittered. "He'll try. But if Mr. Locke refuses, you will return with us. And since you broke no law, you simply defaulted, we have the right to sell you again." Lena threw herself in front of Thalia. "You will not take her," she cried. Renfield laughed. "Back for more?" You never learn, child. She stepped forward, her skirts whispering on the marble. Take her to the vesting room. And fetch the carriage. Thalia's chest tightened. She knew that vesting room meant the same cold cage where she had been prepared for sale. She closed her eyes and drew a shuddering breath. The betrayal stung sharper than any lash. Let me speak with Asher, she begged. Please. Renfield hesitated, then nodded. 1 hour. If your husband cannot produce the funds, we leave with our property. As Thalia fled toward the study, Lena at her side, her mind whirled with dread. How could Asher raise so much money on such short notice? He was powerful, yes, but even his vast wealth had limits. She envisioned Renfield's cold laughter echoing through the corridors as she was dragged away. Sold to another bidder, another life of chains. She burst into the study, where Asher sat at his desk, pen in hand. His dark eyes widened at the sight of her pale face. Thalia, he exclaimed, rising to his feet. Madame Renfield is back, Thalia gasped. She and a man. They claim you failed to pay the full amount. They will take me away in an hour unless you give them another $1,000,000. Asher's face went pale. He ran his hands through his hair in agitation. $1,000,000 more? I thought the original payment cleared the contract. I thought so too, Thalia said. But they have some legal loophole. She sank into a chair, her legs trembling. Asher, please do something. He crossed to her and gripped her shoulders. I won't let them take you. Not again. I swear. He strode to the desk and hauled open the top drawer, revealing a stack of banking ledgers. His hands flew over the pages as he calculated sums. Lena hovered by the door, wringing her hands. Thalia closed her eyes, feeling panic rise like a wave. Her trust in Asher had been her anchor, until now. Would he fail her once more? Would she end up back in the cold auction room, her fate decided by the highest bidder? A sudden idea struck her. She stood abruptly, sending the chair clattering behind her. Wait, she cried. I have papers, settlement documents from my childhood. They might prove that I was compensated fully. If we can present those, perhaps we can void Renfield's claim. Asher stared at her in surprise. Where are they? Thalia reached into her dress and pulled out a small leather folder. She offered it to him. He opened it, his brow knitting as he read the old legal seals and signatures. This could be enough, he murmured. He scanned the pages, then nodded grimly. We'll take this to the law offices immediately. He gathered the folder and hurried from the study, calling for his driver. Lena looked at Thalia, relief and fear warring in her eyes. Do you think it will work? She whispered. Thalia's heart pounded, but she forced herself to nod. We have to try. As they rushed through the grand halls, Thalia realized that betrayal's whisper had come not only from Renfield, but from the fragile ground under her feet. But she also felt a fierce spark of resolve. She would not be sold again. She would fight, with Asher at her side, to claim her freedom once and for all. And as the carriage rolled away into the rising sun, Thalia knew their journey had entered its most perilous chapter yet. The carriage rattled over the worn cobblestones, carrying Thalia's heart as much as it did her body. Beside her, Asher sat tense, the leather folder clutched in his hands. Lena rode behind them, her face pale but determined. Dawn spread a pale light across the city, as if urging them onward. At the law offices, Asher led Thalia through polished hallways to a private chamber. The lawyer, a stern woman with steel-gray hair and kind eyes, accepted the folder without a word. Thalia watched Asher pace, silent and still, as the lawyer examined the seals and signatures. After what felt like an eternity, the lawyer looked up. These documents confirm full settlement in 2008, she said. Madame Renfield's claim is void. You can demand immediate restitution and damages. You are free. Thalia's relief was a wave that washed away weeks of fear. She reached for Asher's hand, and he squeezed it, his dark eyes bright with emotion. Thank you, he whispered. They hurried back to the mansion, where Renfield's carriage still stood waiting. The auction matron's face was a mask of fury when she saw them approach. Thalia stepped forward, calm but unyielding. She held up the folder. You have no claim, she said. These papers prove I was fully compensated. Under the law, you have defamed my husband's name and caused emotional distress. You will return property and apologize, or face formal charges. Renfield's pale lips twisted. She glanced at her companion, but the man's eyes were cold and defeated. With a curt nod, Renfield lowered her head. I apologize, she stammered. I will return the carriage and apologize in writing. Thalia raised her chin. You will never touch me again. Renfield swept out of the courtyard with her man, the sound of hooves fading like a bad dream. Lena collapsed to her knees, tears of joy and relief streaming down her face. Asher lifted Thalia into his arms, spinning her around as if they were children dancing. Thalia laughed for the first time in days, a bright, carefree sound. Later, in the quiet of the study, Thalia placed the bronze key and her childhood photos on the desk. She traced each image with trembling fingers. Asher stood behind her, one arm around her shoulder. "You're safe," he said softly, "and I will never let anyone harm you again." Thalia leaned back against him. "Nor you me," she replied. "We face dangers together, not as captor and captive." He kissed the top of her head. Together. The mansion felt different now, lighter somehow. The shadows in the halls seemed less threatening. Thalia realized her blindness had kept her safe in ways she could not have imagined. But in the light of truth and love, she felt she could see more clearly than ever before. Spring arrived with a gentle warmth that seeped through every window pane. Thalia and Asher spent their days exploring the gardens, reading books aloud together, and sharing whispers by the fountain. Each moment wove a new thread into the tapestry of their bond. One afternoon, Asher led Thalia to the highest tower of the mansion. He guided her to a heavy door and paused. Thalia felt the cool metal handle under her fingertips. Could this be the last secret of the house? He opened the door to a circular chamber filled with canvases draped in white cloth. Thalia's breath caught. "What is this place?" Asher smiled, pulling back one cloth to reveal a portrait of Thalia painted in oil, her silver hair luminous against dark velvet. "I had an artist paint you," he said quietly. "I wanted to capture your spirit, the way I feel it, not the way the world sees you." Thalia stepped forward, her fingers brushing the painted strokes of hair and cheek. "It's beautiful," she whispered. Tears sprang to her eyes. "How could you think to give me such a gift?" "As a token of my love," he replied, stepping beside her. "Of the truth you brought to my life." She turned to face him. "And what do you see when you look at me?" His voice was soft, filled with wonder. "I see strength. I see kindness. I see the most beautiful soul I have ever known." Thalia felt a warmth spread through her chest. She reached up, her hands coming to rest on his face, the strong jaw, the soft brush of his beard. He closed his eyes at her touch. "I love you, Asher Locke," she said simply. He opened his eyes, shining. "I love you too," Thalia rose. More than words can hold. They embraced, and for a moment time stood still. The chains of their past, her blindness, his guilt, the cruel auction, lay broken at their feet. In its place grew freedom. The freedom to love, to trust, and to see one another in the fullest light. Months passed, and word of Renfield's disgrace spread. Thalia's story became a quiet legend among the staff. How a poor blind girl had captured the heart of a billionaire, survived betrayal, and claimed her freedom. But she and Asher cared little for gossip. They built a life together filled with laughter, shared dreams, and simple joys. Sunsets by the fountain, handwritten letters tucked under pillows, the soft music of the garden roses in bloom. On the anniversary of their first meeting, Asher arranged a small celebration under the jasmine arbor. Lanterns glowed like stars, and Thalia's favorite song drifted through the air, Elias's humming, performed by a quartet of musicians. Thalia closed her eyes, letting the melody wash over her. Asher took her hand and led her to the center of the garden. He knelt on one knee, producing a delicate ring fashioned from white gold and set with a simple diamond the size of a dewdrop. "Thalia Rose," he said, voice unsteady with emotion, "will you marry me, truly and freely, as my partner, my equal, and the love of my life?" Thalia placed her hand over her heart. "Yes," she said, her voice clear as a bell. "Yes, 1,000 times yes." He slipped the ring onto her finger, sealing their promise. This time, there were no contracts or chains, only vows spoken from the heart. As the quartet struck the final chord and lantern light danced in the jasmine, Thalia and Asher embraced their new future, free from the silken chains that had once bound them. And in the light of that gentle spring evening, two souls, one once blind, one once lost in guilt, found perfect vision in each other's love. Hey there, story lovers. If you want to add a little more magic, adventure, and heartwarming moments to your day, make sure you subscribe to the Daily Stories channel on YouTube. Join our community of dreamers and seekers of inspiration. Hit that subscribe button and tap the bell icon so you never miss our new story every single day.